Oh my goodness. A massive announcement by Bryan this morning in Discord that changes a lot of what we thought we knew about Vulcan going forward. In this video, I'm going to bring you the headlines and I'm going to give you my initial reaction to this massive announcement. So let's just go.
Living life every day, late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray, all I need are some better.
Welcome, my dear friend, come on in. Absolutely no time for tea today. This is massive. We need to get on. But before we do, I will say, as I always do, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. I'm just talking about the announcement that's just dropped in Discord for Vulcan. And also just to say, if you aren't already, then please do consider subscribing. Hit that button down below. Thank you. Okay, let's get into this. But before we do, just a bit of a caveat from me. I was literally out and about when this announcement dropped, and I dropped everything yet again to rush to bring you this video. The announcement dropped probably an hour or so ago, and I've read it through a couple of times. I'm going to bring you the highlights, but I would just say I'm still kind of digesting all of this. If I miss something crucial or I get something slightly wrong, please forgive me. I'm trying to bring you this video as soon as I possibly can. So let's go. Okay, first things first, let's take a really brief look at the announcement. I'm not going to read it all through. You need to go and do that and really read it and digest it and read it slowly and just understand what it's saying. I'm just going to pick up on what I think are the highlights and the headlines and then come back to give you my reaction. So, upgrading tokenomics for a stronger and more sustainable ecosystem. This is an exciting new chapter in the evolution of Vulcan. Let's just look at these bullet points. Reducing total supply, creating further sustainable growth and longevity, rewarding early adopters by honouring the 191,888% APY until January 20th, pausing all rebases as of January 20th until launch of mainnet. Fixed flex 38% APR now increased to 44% APR, representing a 13.6% increase. Improved tokenomics and transaction fees, and ensuring centralised exchange agreements are in place on the launch of mainnet. We will have the very high APY rate that we're currently getting honoured until the 20th of January, but it will then stop, and by the looks of it, stop forever, because upon the launch of mainnet, Fixed Flex will begin with rebasing at a rate of 44% APR and continue until total supply has been reached. Now, when calculating our new tokenomics, the Treasury will be funded from the future success of the blockchain via the 1% Treasury transaction fee. This is an incredible win for every Vulcan holder. And you'll see here the new tokenomics. Please do go and take a look at those details there. And crucially, the transaction fees will be restructured as follows. So still 5%, but the Vulcan 5 pit will now get 3%, the Treasury 1%, and the final 1% will go to the flexible rebase component. And just to clarify, so the fixed flex adjustment, it was originally going to be 38% as of July onwards, but we will now have the fixed flex adjustment as of the launch of mainnet, which will be 44% APR. But in addition to this, and to encourage activity on our chain, there will still be the flexible rebase component, which offers unlimited earning potential. Crucially, Bryan is here absolutely confirming that we will be listed on a tier 1 or 2 centralized exchange. But as you will read, this can take, the integration process can take between 45 and 60 days for a native coin, which I think is probably why we see the last point, the new launch date, and you'll see there that we now have a targeted launch date of March the 1st, 2023. Whew. So let's just simmer all of that down in some headlines. So, as some of us suspected, there will be a delay to the launch of mainnet, and that will now, well, the targeted date is now the 1st of March 2023. The second thing is that we will continue rebasing till the 20th of January, and then it will stop. And it will stop until the launch of mainnet on the 1st of March. But when we start rebasing on the 1st of March, we will not be receiving that very high APY of 191,000 something percent. We will be adopting straight away the more reduced APR that we were going to go to in kind of 6 months down the line, July. That is now brought forward to the launch of mainnet, but instead of 38%, it has increased to 44%, and it still will have the flex bit, so it'll be a basis of 44%, which, by the way, is 0.12% per day, plus that kind of flexible bit on top, which is the unknown but will depend on volume. So that could still be a massive amount, we just don't know. There's a little gem in there that we've been waiting for quite some time. We now know the total supply and the total circulating supply, which will give us a starting fire pit of just over 83%. And I know we have been waiting for that for quite some time, and it's great to get that little bit of information now. And finally, we are really hearing more about the ambition of Bryan and the team to get us listed on a major exchange, but it's going to take time. So some things are worth waiting for, and that's a biggie. But we know it's still in the pipeline, but it's going to take a bit of time to get on board. What does it all mean? Okay. Well, of course, what we always do when we hear of news like this is we think, how does this affect me? So I've done a little bit of number crunching on my own kind of bag and my own position, but hopefully it might help you to understand a little bit about, about my thoughts on this, but also where it might leave you. So I've got to be honest, when I read this, my heart sank, because of course there's been so much energy put into thinking about this initial 8 months of rebasing at that very high APY. And we were all kind of targeted on July and what would happen then. There'd been lots of work done on that J curve. We knew that, we hoped that Vulcan would launch and spike, but then we knew there was going to be this massive falling away J curve to maybe a price of $1 or less by July, but then we hoped that it would start ramping up again with the decrease into the APR of 38%. That's all obviously now dismantled, and so my initial thoughts was, oh my gosh, this was all about making my bag of Vulcan as huge as it possibly could be in that first the remaining 6 months that we would have had, and of course that's now all gone. And then, of course, I went to the calculator and looked at the difference in the amounts of Vulcan that I will now have compared with what I would have had. And I've got to say, my heart sank even more. So just to remind you, I have a bag of Vulcan that's been rebasing, and I have a full node. I'll come to the full node in a second. So by the time mainnet launches, I will have approximately 4,300 and something Vulcan coins. Now, in the original tokenomics, that would have rebased out, because I was going to hold that bag, that was going to rebase out to, I think, about 180,000 Vulcan coins. And then I was going to figure out what to do with it all. So when I look at the new outcome, if I do the same calculation into July, the same period of time, I end up with about 5,383 Vulcan coins, which includes my initial 4,300 something. So it's going to increase by about 1,000 Vulcan coins in that time. And of course, when I saw that, I thought, my gosh, what's going on here? However, I've then let it sink in, and I've really reread the article and really tried to understand why this is happening. And of course, going back to what my original bag would have looked like under the original arrangements, I would have had over 180,000 Vulcan coins. That's just me, little old me, who is not a major holder. I'm kind of in the table. I was coming out at about 900 and something, so I was in the top 1,000. But I alone would have had that many. And then when you think about it like that, you're realizing the circulating supply would have been ridiculous, which is why we knew the price would have nosedived massively. As it did with safuux, we know, we've seen the pattern, we know what will happen. And we were kind of preparing ourselves for that. But what Bryan is doing now is saying, no, we're not doing that. We are hitting the ground running. And that means we've got to, we've got to take this on the nose, as it were. But what he's trying to do is make it as sustainable as possible. And what this potentially will mean is that obviously now fingers crossed, that J curve is not going to be there, because we're not going to have that ridiculous rebate. Well, I'm saying ridiculous, it was great, but we're not going to have that massive rebasing, that introductory period that was going to take us all into huge bags of Vulcan. That's not going to be there anymore. What does that mean? Well, that means that the price now absolutely could skyrocket, but be sustainable at those high rates. I don't know what the price is going to be. But whereas we were originally talking about it going down to $1 or less in July, that's no longer the case, because we're taking out that massive rebasing. So, in terms of my main bag, although my heart sank to begin with, and although now, the number I will have in that same period to July is massively reduced, could we now be looking at a price of Vulcan to be, I don't know, sustainable at over $100, $200 more? Bryan has talked so much about this being on a par with BNB and Ethereum. Are we now looking at something that is so much more sustainable? Yes. Where the price will potentially skyrocket but stay there? Yes. And so I've got to change my thinking about this. It's not now about how many Vulcan can I collect and gather by July in that initial stage. It's now about how high can this price go. So it's not about quantity, it's about quality. It's quality. And that's what we now have. We have a model of a quality over quantity. And so we have to adjust our thinking. It's a completely different model. And I'm getting used to it. I am. In about the hour that it's been kind of in my head, I've been kind of going, oh, okay. Yeah, this can work, actually. This is much more sustainable. And now just in terms of the nodes, I have a full node. And looking at the rebasing, that was going to rebase at about, I think it was just over 900 Vulcan per month on rebases. And of course, that's now all changed. And doing a quick calculation, I think we will now get just below 40 Vulcan per month for a full node. So again, very different. But of course, what this doesn't affect is the income from the nodes. So this will affect the rebasing of the nodes, but not the income. So again, adjusting my thinking, we're not going to get as much in terms of quantity of Vulcan from rebasing, but again, going back to the price of Vulcan will now be the important thing, and this will not affect the actual income, my understanding, because of course the income isn't rebase, it's just income from volume on the blockchain. So yeah, I'm getting used to all of this. It just really, I think, requires all of us to really just sit and really think about it. Just digest it. And, you know, really think it through. This is sustainability, and this is what we need. We need sustainability. And this is going to give us that. And it's a shock and it's different, but ultimately in the long term, this has got to be the right solution. And so again, it's still sinking in, but I think it can only be a good move. Okay, I'm going to leave it there because I need to go away and just digest this a little bit more. I said that was my initial thoughts. Please do go and read the announcement, read it through a few times, let it digest, look at the tokenomics. I haven't really touched on that, but look at all that, let it digest, be a part of the Discord discussion. There's lots of people in there very concerned, others are very bullish or bullish on this move, and it's going to take, I think, a few hours and a few days for all this to sink in and for us to really mulch together what it means. I'm sure the likes of UK Shepsky will be redoing his calculator. I'm sure Star and Dia will be coming out with their take on all of this in the next few days. So yeah, but I will just say, as I always do, dear Vulcans, live long in prosperity, which I think we are going to do. And cheers.
Living life, every day, late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray, all I need are some better days.